It's 3:45 p.m. on a Tuesday, and I am currently staring at a tiny, pulsating blue dot on my phone screen while pretending to be deeply engaged in a quarterly budget meeting. You know that little dot. It represents my 10-year-old daughter. Right now, it's hovering near the corner of Maple and 4th, which is exactly where it should be if she's walking home from school. But then it stops. For 3 minutes, the dot doesn't move. My brain, fueled by 3 cups of lukewarm coffee and the general working mom hum of low-grade anxiety, begins to spiral. Is she talking to a stranger? Did she drop her bag? Is the watch malfunctioning? This tiny piece of tech, this glowing circle of silicone and glass, has become a permanent fixture on my kitchen counter, charging every night right next to the fruit bowl that nobody ever eats from. We call them safety tools, but let's be honest, they feel more like digital umbilical cords. In my house, that smartwatch was supposed to be the freedom purchase. It was the compromise that allowed her to walk those 6 blocks alone. But as I sit here, clutching my phone like a talisman, I have to ask myself, am I actually giving her freedom, or am I just extending the leash? Today, we're diving deep into what I call the GPS trap. We're going to look at 3 specific paths: the safety-first security blanket, the old-school autonomy approach, and the training wheel middle ground. By the end of this, I want us to figure out if our kids are losing something vital, like a sense of direction or the ability to be truly alone, every time we refresh that tracking app. Let's talk about the morning scramble. In my house, it's a chaotic symphony of, "Where is your other shoe?" and "No, you cannot have a popsicle for breakfast." Amidst that mess, there's a ritual. I strap a chunky, colorful smartwatch onto my son's wrist, cinching it just tight enough so it won't slide off during recess. I do it for my own sanity. As a working parent, my day is a jigsaw puzzle of school drop-offs, Zoom calls, and the eventual frantic dash to soccer practice. That watch is my insurance policy. It's the thing that lets me say yes when he asks to ride his bike to the park with the kid next door. Without it, the answer would almost certainly be no. We live in a world that feels louder and more unpredictable than the one we grew up in, even if the statistics tell us otherwise. When I see that green safe zone notification pop up on my phone while I'm mid-email, I feel a literal physical release in my shoulders. The tension just drains away. We've created this invisible fence around our children, built out of cellular signals and GPS pings. It's a comfort, right? It feels like we've hacked parenting. We found a way to let them roam while keeping them tucked safely under our digital wing. We tell ourselves that this is the only way to navigate modern childhood, that the alternative is just too risky. We see the headlines, we hear the true crime podcasts, and we decide that a $30 a month data plan is a small price to pay for the ability to know exactly where our child is at 2:14 p.m. on a Wednesday. It feels like love. It feels like responsible parenting. But as I'm looking at that watch, I sometimes wonder if I'm protecting him from the world, or if I'm protecting myself from the what-ifs that keep me up at night. I spent weeks reading the studies on this so you don't have to, and the psychology behind why we track is actually pretty fascinating. It's called surrogate supervision. Basically, we are using technology to stand in for our physical presence. When we can't be there to watch our kids with our own eyes, the GPS becomes our eyes. The science here isn't just about the satellites, it's about our brain's amygdala, the part that handles fear. When we have access to real-time data about our child's location, it triggers a hit of dopamine. We feel in control. We feel like we've mitigated risk. The core concept here is that we've redefined safety from being an internal skill a child learns to an external service a parent monitors. In the past, safety was something you taught. Look both ways, don't talk to strangers. If you get lost, find a mom with a stroller. Now, safety is a notification. We've moved from teaching kids how to navigate the world to simply watching them move through it. The philosophy is simple. If I know where you are safe. But safety scientists actually distinguish between perceived safety and actual safety. A watch can tell you where a child is, but it can't tell you who they are with or what they are doing. It's a digital tether that provides a massive amount of psychological comfort to the parent, often at the expense of the child's internal development of a gut feeling. We are essentially outsourcing our intuition to an app, hoping the algorithm knows our kids as well as we do. Here is the honest cost that we don't like to talk about over coffee. We are killing the wrong turn. Think back to your own childhood. Remember the feeling of realizing you'd walked too far, or that you didn't recognize the house on the corner? That spike of adrenaline was a teacher. It forced you to look up, to read street signs, to find landmarks, and to solve the problem of your own location. When a child wears a GPS tracker, they never truly have to be lost. And because they are never lost, they never have to find themselves. I've noticed it with my own kids. They don't look at the world, they look at the screen. If they get turned around, they don't look for the big oak tree or the blue house. They just wait for the watch to buzz or for me to call and tell them to turn around. We are trading their spatial intelligence and their sense of self-reliance for our own peace of mind. The hidden trade-off is a phenomenon called learned helplessness. If a child knows that a parent is always hovering in the digital cloud, they don't develop the same level of environmental awareness. They become passive passengers in their own lives. They aren't building the mental maps that help them navigate not just physical streets, but the complicated world of decision-making. We think we're keeping them safe, but we might be making them more vulnerable by ensuring they never have to face a minor crisis on their own. We are saving them from a 3-minute panic, but we're costing them a lifetime of navigational confidence. Now, let's be fair. This safety-first path isn't a villain story for every family. There are seasons and situations where this tech is a genuine godsend. If you have a child with neurodivergence, perhaps a son who struggles with elopement, or a daughter who gets easily overwhelmed by sensory input, that GPS tracker isn't a leash, it's a lifeline. It's the difference between a child being able to participate in a community outing or being stuck at home. It's also a perfect fit for that in-between age, maybe 7 to 9, where the neighborhood feels just a little too big. For a working parent who can't be at the bus stop because of a rigid shift schedule, that arrived-at-home notification is the only thing that allows them to finish their workday without a panic attack. This path shines in high-density urban environments, or for families who have recently moved to a new, unfamiliar area. It's about using the tool to bridge a specific gap in confidence. If the tracking is used as a temporary scaffold rather than a permanent cage, it can actually serve as a foundation for later independence. It's about knowing your specific child's readiness level, rather than following a generic rule. Before we move on to the more hands-off approach, I can hear some of you thinking, but wait, my kid is only 7. This isn't that deep yet. And you're right. But if you think managing a GPS watch is exhausting, wait until they hit middle school, and the tracking moves from a colorful wristband to a smartphone with social media. If we don't get the autonomy conversation right now, while the stakes are just a walk to the park, we are going to be in for a very rough ride when they start driving cars and going to parties. We're laying the groundwork for trust right now. If we're enjoying this deep dive and you want to be part of a community of parents who actually care about the why behind our choices instead of just the how-to lists, I'd love for you to join us here at ParentingExplored. We're all just trying to survive Tuesday morning without losing our minds, right? Let's look at the second path, the free-range scout. Picture this. It's Saturday morning. The sun is out, the dishes are piled in the sink, and my daughter announces she's going to the library 3 blocks away. She isn't wearing a watch. She doesn't have a phone. She just has a library card and a bike helmet that's slightly lopsided. This is the old-school reality. It feels radical, doesn't it? In an era where every other kid in the park looks like a miniature Secret Service agent with their wrist-based communicators, seeing a child with an empty wrist feels almost negligent to some people. My mother-in-law certainly thinks so. When she sees the kids leave without a way to contact me, she looks at me like I've left them in the middle of the woods with nothing but a compass and a prayer. But there is a specific kind of quiet in my house when they are gone, and I don't have a way to track them. I can't check the dot. I can't refresh the map. I actually have to trust the work I've done. I have to trust that she knows the way. I have to trust that she knows how to ask for help if she gets a flat tire. It forces me to actually finish my book or focus on my work, rather than being a backseat walker from 3 miles away. It's a messy, uncomfortable feeling. Every time the door slams and they head out into the world dark, there's a moment where my heart does a little frantic flutter. I start imagining every worst-case scenario. But then I take a breath. I remember that I am building a person, not a drone. This path is about leaning into that discomfort and choosing to believe that the world is generally a good place. The core concept here is radical autonomy. It's the belief that children are competent citizens of their own lives. This philosophy draws heavily from the free-range kids movement, which argues that we have significantly overestimated the dangers of the world while simultaneously underestimating our children's abilities. When we don't use GPS, we are forcing the child to develop what's called cognitive mapping. This is the brain's ability to mentally represent their environment. Studies in child development suggest that when kids navigate without digital aid, they develop better spatial reasoning and a higher sense of self-efficacy, which is just a fancy way of saying they believe they can handle things. The science shows that navigating physical space is actually linked to how we navigate social and emotional challenges later in life. By removing the tracker, we are giving the child the gift of the gap. The gap is that space between them and us. In that gap, they have to make choices. They have to decide which way to turn. They have to manage their own time. They have to deal with the minor boredom of waiting for a bus or the minor stress of a missed turn. The philosophy here is that these microstresses are the vitamins of resilience. Without them, a child's coping muscles stay weak. We aren't just letting them walk. We are letting them grow their own internal compass. It's the idea that true safety doesn't come from being watched. It comes from knowing how to watch out for yourself. Let's be real though, this path has a massive cost, and it's mostly paid by us, the parents. The hidden trade-off of radical autonomy is a heavy emotional burden of uncertainty. When you don't track your kid, you are signing up for moments of genuine, heart-pounding worry. If they are 10 minutes late, you don't know if they stopped for a snack or if something is wrong. You have to sit with that. You have to manage your own nervous system so you don't scream at them the moment they walk through the door. It is mentally exhausting to be a free-range parent in a zero-risk culture. There is also a social cost. If something does happen, even something minor, the judgment from other parents, from the school, or even from the police in some extreme cases, is brutal. We live in a society that increasingly views unsupervised children as at risk. Choosing this path means you are often the odd one out at the PTA meeting. You are the reckless mom. That social friction is real, and it's taxing. Furthermore, for the child, the trade-off is that they don't have a panic button. If they genuinely get into trouble, they have to rely on the kindness of strangers or their own wits. That is a heavy responsibility for a young kid. It means we have to spend significantly more time on the pre-work, teaching them the skills, the routes, and the emergency protocols before we ever let them out the door. You can't just slap a watch on and go. You have to spend months building the foundation. The cost of their freedom is your constant, quiet vigilance and the labor of intensive teaching. It's not lazy parenting. It's actually much harder than checking an app. This old-school path is a perfect fit for older children, think 10 and up, who have already shown a strong sense of responsibility. It's for the kid who remembers to bring their homework home without being nagged, and who knows their phone number by heart. It also works best in tight-knit communities where everyone knows everyone. If you live in a neighborhood where the neighbors are actually out on their porches, the village acts as a natural, non-digital tracker. It's also a great fit for parents who are intentionally trying to break the cycle of anxiety. If you find that checking the tracking app is making you more anxious rather than less, going dark might be the reset your family needs. It's for the family that values grit and independence as their top-tier virtues. It's about recognizing that your child is ready for the next level of the game of life and giving them the space to play it without a coach shouting instructions from the sidelines. It shines in the low-stakes adventures, like walking to the corner store, where the risks are manageable and the rewards for their self-esteem are massive. I can hear the objection forming in your mind right now. You're thinking, this all sounds great on a podcast, but on a Tuesday morning when I'm late for work and the rain is pouring, I just need to know they got to school. I hear you. I am you. This isn't about being a perfect parent who never checks an app or a warrior parent who lets their 6-year-old roam the city. It's about finding the lever that works for your specific sanity. Some days, I'm the GPS mom. Other days, I'm the see you at 5 mom. We are allowed to be both. But what if there was a way to use the tech without falling into the trap? What if we could use the GPS as a training tool rather than a permanent tether? Let's look at the third path, which I call the collaborative boundary setter. This is the middle ground that might just save our kids' sense of direction and our own peace of mind. It's about making the kid a partner in the safety game, rather than a passive object being tracked. In my kitchen, we have a literal piece of paper taped to the fridge. It's our digital handshake. It says that the smartwatch stays in the backpack unless they are actually walking alone. It says that I won't check the app unless it's 10 minutes past the home time we agreed on. This is the collaborative reality. It's a lot of talking. It's sitting down with my daughter and saying, hey, I want you to have this watch so you can call me if you're scared, but I don't want to be a spy. How do we make this work? It's messy because it requires a 10-year-old to have an opinion on privacy. Sometimes she forgets to charge it. Sometimes I forget to check it. But the focus isn't on the blue dot. It's on the check-in. Instead of me watching the map, we have an agreement that she will send a quick "here" text when she arrives at the park. This shifts the responsibility from my eyes to her brain. She has to remember. She has to be aware of her time. If she forgets, we talk about it. We don't just rely on the automated geofence notification that tells me she entered the park. I've actually turned those notifications off. Why? Because I want her to be the one who tells me she's safe. I want that connection to be between us, not between two servers in a data center. It feels a bit like teaching someone to drive. You're in the car, your hand is near the emergency brake, but they are the ones with their hands on the wheel. It's more work for me. I have to stay off my phone and wait for that text. I have to resist the urge to peek at the map. But when that "here" text pops up, I know she's not just physically at the park. She's mentally there too. She's responsible. The core concept here is scaffolding. In educational psychology, scaffolding is when you provide temporary support that is gradually removed as the child develops a skill. Think of the GPS as the training wheels on a bike. You don't leave them on forever, and you don't just take them off on day 1 and hope for the best. You raise them up an inch at a time. The philosophy here is that technology should be a communication tool, not a surveillance tool. The science of self-determination theory suggests that for kids to grow up healthy, they need 3 things: autonomy, competence, and relatedness. The collaborative path hits all 3. They have autonomy because they are the ones making the choice to check in. They build competence because they are managing the tech and the timing. And they maintain relatedness because the safety is based on a contract with their parent, not a secret tracking app. We are moving from surveillance, which is something you do to someone, to monitoring, which is something you do with someone. This distinction is huge for a child's developing sense of ethics and privacy. By age 10 or 11, kids start to realize they are being tracked. If it's done secretly or without their input, it can damage the trust in the parent-child relationship. If it's done as a collaboration, it becomes a lesson in digital citizenship. We are teaching them that tech has a purpose, to facilitate human connection, rather than being something that controls or watches them. It's a subtle shift in the why that makes a massive difference in the how they feel about their own independence. The hidden trade-off here is complexity. This path is exhausting because it requires constant negotiation. You can't just set it and forget it. You have to have the check-in conversation every time they leave the house. What's the plan? When will you text? What do we do if the battery dies? It's much easier to just look at a map than it is to teach a distracted middle schooler the nuances of time management and proactive communication. There's also the risk of false security. If the contract is that they check in, but they forget, you have to decide if that's a safety issue or a discipline issue. In the GPS-only path, you always know where they are. In the collaborative path, you might have moments of radio silence while you wait for that text. You have to be okay with that gap. Another trade-off is the negotiation fatigue. As kids get older, they will push back on the contract. They'll want more freedom and less checking in. You have to be prepared to move the goalpost constantly. It's not a static solution. It's a living, breathing agreement that changes as they grow. This takes a lot of emotional energy and a lot of parenting on the fly. You have to be willing to admit when the scaffold can come down, which is scary. It's much safer to keep the tracker on just in case than it is to say, okay, today you're going to the mall and you don't have to text me until you're ready to be picked up. That transition is the hardest part. The trade-off is your own peace of mind as you slowly pull back the safety net that you've become addicted to. The collaborative path is the Goldilocks zone for the middle school years, roughly ages 11 to 14. This is when kids are desperately seeking independence, but still lack the executive function to handle every situation perfectly. It's for the family that wants to use technology as a teaching tool rather than a crutch. It works best for parents who have a relatively high level of trust with their kids and who are willing to spend the time talking through the why behind the rules. It's also the ideal path for kids who are starting to feel babied by the chunky smartwatch and are ready for a phone, but aren't quite ready for total digital freedom. It's the perfect bridge. If you're a parent who values open communication above all else, this is your lane. It allows you to keep a foot in both worlds, the safety of the digital age and the autonomy of the analog one. It's about building a relationship where the kid wants to tell you they're safe, not because a satellite told you, but because they value your peace of mind. So, as I sit here at my kitchen table, looking at that little pink smartwatch charging by the fruit bowl, I'm realizing that there is no one right answer to the GPS trap. There's only the right answer for the season you are in right now. Maybe you're in a season of high anxiety and a busy work schedule where that little blue dot is the only thing keeping you sane. That's okay. Maybe you're in a season where you want to see your child's shoulders move with the confidence of someone who isn't being watched, and you're ready to let the battery die on purpose. That's okay too. The real trap isn't the GPS itself. It's the idea that we have to choose between safety and autonomy once and for all. We don't. We can toggle between them. We can use the tech to build the skill, and then we can put the tech away. The goal isn't to have a kid who is always tracked. It's to have a kid who knows where they are going, even when the screen goes dark. As you head into your week, I want you to think about which path feels like a fit for your family right now. Are you the constant guardian, the free-range scout, or the collaborative boundary setter? There's no judgment here, just a community of parents trying to find our way home. Which path fits your current season? Let's talk about it in the comments, or just take a moment to reflect on it while you're folding that next mountain of laundry. You're doing a great job, even if you're checking the app one more time. I'll see you next time on Parenting Explored.